do the column chromatography, we need to start with the packing of the column. And you'll start with the 5 gram of silicon gel, put it in a beaker, and then put about 50 ml hexane to make a slurry. The 50 ml is roughly, if you use 10 ml or 40, even 40 ml, that's also fine. And you stir, make sure the silicon gel suspended very well in the beaker. And after that, you need to have your column ready. So get a clean, dry column. Pack with a small piece of cotton. Use a glass rod, push the cotton to the bottom. And then put a thin layer of sand on top of the cotton. This cotton is not flat yet. So just to make sure the cotton surface is relatively flat. And on top of that, you pour the sand. And then you tap a little bit. Make sure the sand has a flat surface. And after that, you clamp it. Okay, clamp it to the arm stand. And now this is about time you can add hexane solvent. Hexane is the least polar solvent in today's experiment. So we start with the least polar one. And use a cock ring to tap it. Make sure you have a flat surface. And then drain the solvent a little bit. And at this point, we are about to add a silicon gel slurry. And you make sure you have about 1/3 of hexane in your column. And you shake, or stir the slurry, and make sure it mixes very well. And then try to dump it through the funnel into your column. And make sure the solvent doesn't overflow. And you open the stopper. And you'll see the silicon gel start to settle down in the column. And at this time, you need to tap your column with a cock ring or a rubber stopper that also works. So this step will make sure the silicon gel packed nice and tight and evenly. So you can use a little bit of air to push the solvent through the column. This will make the elution much faster. So you attach the adapter to this air hose, and then open the orange valve on the side of your hood. And you hold this stopper on top of your column, and then gently touch it. And the air pressure will push the hexane flow much faster. So we have some hexane left, and then now we start to load the remaining silicon gel. It's hard to pour all the silicon gel into the column at once, so you can put some hexane back. This hexane is still clean, so you can reuse it. And then make sure the silicon gel mix very well, and you suspend it. And then dump it quickly through the glass funnel. Overflow. Since this is our last portion of silicon gel, and it's okay to remove the funnel after that. And then do the same thing as you did before. Use a cock ring to tap the column gently. most of the silicon gel settle down on the bottom, you can use the air to push it. Use too much air. So adjust the airflow, not too much, otherwise the solvent will spill everywhere. So we have half of the hexanes left, and we need that hexanes to do the next step, to load a second layer of sand. And notice, before you do that, your silicon gel surface should be nice and flat. If you have an irregular surface, do the same. Use your caulk ring to tap it. Make sure the surface is nice flat. And then you have your sand ready in the wing paper, and you pour it gently and slowly through the top of the glass column. And the hexanes will hold the sand and then lower it down slowly to the surface of the silicon gel. So you'll have a nice flat surface. And don't pour your sand too hard or too quick. And now we can put more hexanes. Okay, so at this step we finish the packing, and the next step is to do the sample loading. And before you actually start to load any sample, you make sure your solvent surface is touch the surface of the sand. So to do that, we need to use air to push the solvent through. So the hexane surface is going to reach the sand, and now need to be very careful. And now we need to remove the air pressure. And then let me raise the column a little bit so you can see it clear. So this is the surface of the sand, and this is the surface of the solvent, and they kind of touch each other. And this is the position you want before you start loading any sample. So we have the column ready, and the next is to prepare your unknown solution. Your unknown is provided in a little vial, and don't forget to take the weight of the vial and the sample together. You need to calculate the recovery rate. So we have the unknown ready, and we use the least amount of methylene chloride to dissolve it. Methylene chloride is polar, it's a medium polarity solvent. So if you use too much methylene chloride, that will pull your compound down the column without any separation. So make sure you use roughly about 0.2 to 0.5 ml methylene chloride. So now the sample solution is ready. And I take the solution through the glass pipette. And then load the sample around the inside wall of your column. So the sample layer will stay evenly. And then open the stopper to drain the solvent. And then let the sample go through the sand layer to absorb on your silicon gel. At the same time, you can add a little bit of hexanes to rinse your sample. Okay. So we have about 1 ml hexanes in the vial to rinse the vial and rinse the pipette. And you add the rinsing to this column. hexane is non-polar, so if you add too much hexane, that's okay. It's not going to separate the compounds, bring compounds down. Okay, now you see all the samples they are absorbed on the silicon gel. Now it's about time to actually elute your sample. So we can use the hexanes, starting with the 50 mil hexanes. The hexanes we just finished packing the column is still clean, so you can reuse these hexanes. And I put the hexanes back here. In the beginning, do it gently. You don't want to disturb your sand surface too much. And when you have a good amount of solvent, it's okay if you pour it in. And then open the stopper and press it with the air. Okay, so after 50 ml of hexanes, if nothing coming out, no yellow compound coming out, you probably don't have that unknown. So now go ahead to change the polarity to the medium polarity solvent, which is a 1-to-1 mixture of petroleum ether and ethyl ether. So we add about 20 ml now. And you do the same thing, use a little bit of air to push the solvent through the column. So now you see the unknown start to separate, and one band start to show up, which is the orange band. When you remove the air adapter, make sure you remove it gently, not too fast. Otherwise, the air will go back and cause column cracking. And then now let's add another portion of petroleum ether, ethyl ether mixture. At the same time, make sure you have a clean flask ready to collect this orange band. Okay, we probably want to stop here because orange band is approaching to the bottom. So make sure you have your clean aluminium flask ready to collect this fraction. And since the solvent is running low, so we add another portion of the medium polarity solvent. So now you can see the fraction we collected in the aluminium flask is like yellowish. That comes from this band, the second band. So now the orange band is almost gone, and we can switch to the next one. It's the acetone, the most polar compound, most polar solvent. So in the beginning, pour the acetone very gently, very slowly, and then you can pour it quickly. And we need to flush the column a little bit more because the second compound, the orange band, still has a little bit left. Okay, so now the second, now the orange band is completely gone, and we can switch this aluminium flask to the beaker containing your waste, and we collect the solvent between the fractions. So now the dark red band is about to come out. So we have our second clean aluminium flask ready. And we need to put a little bit more acetone. And now push the air through the column. Now the red band is coming out. So you collect all these colored fractions. Okay, so that's the end of the dark red band. And now all the compounds has eluted to the column. And a good separation at the end, your column will be nice, white and clean. So this step we're done with the column flushing, so we have the two fractions ready. And then label these two fractions. And then you're going to run TLC on these two fractions, and then do the rotor web to calculate the recovery rate for these two fractions. And how to take care of the column. And this column we don't need it anymore, so we use air to push all the solvent through the column. Okay, so now most of the solvent is gone. And in the side hood, you'll find a beaker labeled with used silicon gel and sand. They don't have air. You can take your column to the side hood, and there is a used sand and a silicon gel beaker, and there is a hose already attached to the air line in the side hood. So you can take your column over there and put air through the column from the bottom part, and a little bit of air push will remove all the sand and the cotton and the silicon gel from your column. So your column is back to nice and clean.